All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do some Kdenlive tips. And first, why do I use Kdenlive? Well, there's a few different video editors on Linux. I think there's one called PV or PVD or something like PIV, something, something, something. I've not used that one. It seems as though it's a lot like Kdenlive. I really don't have any experience with that. The other major one is OpenShot, which OpenShot is more like Windows Live Movie Maker. It's very basic. Kdenlive is very advanced. And I used to use OpenShot, but then they did an update which made it, they didn't really add any functionality, but they made it a lot more complicated to use. And I said, well, if I have to relearn a new system anyway, I'm going to learn Kdenlive. And I'm glad I did, because Kdenlive is a whole lot better of a video editor, in my opinion. Now, again, it's more advanced stuff. If all you need to do is add some things together, throw on some music, OpenShot's probably for you. If you want to do more advanced stuff, then check out Kdenlive. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to show you, we're going to go over to my screen here, video here on my Christian computer, and sorry if you don't like the Christian message, I'm not going to be focusing on that at all. It's just the reason I'm doing it on this computer is my Linux videos do not generally get a lot of editing. My Christian videos, on the other hand, get a lot of editing. And so with the amount of editing I do, I just kind of wanted to show you how I do that, because it'll give you a lot of tips and tricks. So first, this is the last video. So if you have not checked out the Christian channel, it is linked to my Linux channel. If you look at the video called Holy, 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 this is the one that I did some different things with. So just to walk you through the anatomy of how these videos work, I have an image over here which is mocked up in GIMP. Now I actually have, what I have here is I have templates set up where the book is on one side and then it's on the other, basically swapping the book and the logo, just to give myself some variety. And then, of course, I'm putting in the images. Now, all of the background images that I'm using on these intro slides, these are photos that I've snapped in various places throughout. So I actually play like a 10-second audio clip that a friend of mine who is a music producer and person put together for me for the channel. And then I kind of move over here. Now, the only thing is, as I start this video here, I had recorded this on another computer as a test, and the video quality is really not as good as my video quality usually is. Typically I'm recording 1080p. This one here, although everything was set for 1080p, the bit rate was set too low in the recorder, and so it didn't give me good video out overlay here. But that's actually okay. What I wanted to do differently here is first, let me actually back up here and just let it play. The first thing you'll see is I have a title clip come in. So if you watch this, this is actually a layered title clip where I have text actually slides in from the left and the banner actually slides in from the right. And if I can go back, I don't know if I can go back frame for frame. Nope, I can't go back frame for frame. Not here. I can go back frame for frame in the actual video editor, so I'll show you that. Now, the next thing I did a little bit differently on these videos here is I changed the scripture readings. So whereas I used to just read the scripture and tell you where it is, now I'm actually putting the text up on the screen with an animated background. So that'll kind of bring up the video quality quite a bit. And so let's see, I just want to get to the point to where it starts, and I don't have my audio playing, so I have no idea where I'm at. Looks like I'm starting, though, because I'm looking in the Bible, so give us just a second. So there you go, you see that slide in. Oh, you have our text, we have our animated background overlaying this, and then as I'm reading it, oftentimes I have to change the slide. Now this one here, there's only one little verse, and so I never change it. If you go and see the longer ones, then you'll actually see that I'll layer them on top of each other. So let's go ahead and show you how I'm doing all of that. So what I have is I have a very nice, I actually saved this file from this morning. I usually just delete the file once I'm done with it. But I wanted to save this so you can see what this looks like. So I'm just going to double click, open this guy up, and then you'll get a chance here to see what this looks like. And what you see here is we have a variety of clips. So if you look in the upper, well, I guess not the upper, but kind of in near the top on the left, you'll see over here is where I have all of my clips. And you'll see that there are a ton of clips. And so this is kind of what I do. So if you were looking for this video early this morning, this actually took me 3 hours to put together for a 40-minute video. And so I'm going to try and do them all with this level of quality. I just, sometimes it's complicated. So you can see here what I'm doing is I'm layering these guys over. Now there might be a way to string this together. Basically it's a video that plays on loop. I'm just dropping multiple layers of it on. I have to go back and have a look at, here at what this, if I can basically set it on there and then loop the clip. I've not researched that. I just got the idea to put these videos together like this last night, right before I edited this one out, and so I just wanted to have a look at what this, what I could do here. Now, what you will see on these is I have 5 different layers of video here. I have my main video feed, which is down at the very bottom. Now, of course, this layers, so the upper layers on this are going to appear on top. And so if I look at my very top layer, let me just go ahead and throw my my cursor over here. Okay, so what we have is the very top layer here is actually the title here. And so if I come over here and disable that clip, let's see. It should vanish on me. Well, maybe it won't. Oh, I never hit the disable. It does not want to disable for me. Just come over here. I'm just going to see if I can disable it another way here. But the top clip anyway is the verse reference up top. The second one down is my banner. The third one down is the actual text. The fourth is the video. And of course the video is overlaying on top of my video here. And so I'm never removing me from it. I'm just overlaying a video on top of it so that you can't really see that. Now, if you go back and have a look at how these guys go in, I'll go frame for frame here. So just by moving the over key, the arrow keys. So what you'll see here as I come over here is that going frame for frame, what you start to see is, if you check at the very top, you'll start to see here that the verse is now coming in and fading in. So it's right on my shirt now. And then you'll also start to see the banner is starting to show up now. And then what you see is now they come together right there. And they're going to stick around. Now, there's 2 ways that you can have one of those overlays. One of those is you can attach it directly to the clip. And that's actually what I'm doing here because it makes for a little bit quicker way of doing it. And so any of the clips that have those effects over top, they have the star over here. So that's what I'm talking about here. And so what we see is there is an effect, and I have basically built these as custom effects. I have a banner in 15, a banner in 30, a verse in 15, and a verse in 30. Because all of these, if you watch these videos, all of my verse slides are either in 15-second clips or they are in 30-second clips. That way, if you look at what this looks like up here, then what you actually have is you'll see there's a couple of keyframes in there at the very beginning. So the very first keyframe starts in where the verse is completely out of frame, and then it slides back in over the course of a few seconds. Actually, I think it's half of a second, I think is what I have. And then it stays there, and then of course you have keyframes at the very end to begin when it moves and when it's out of frame completely. So that's kind of what you're doing. So we're going to talk about how to set those guys up here. The other things, let's see if there's anything else in here I want to talk about. I guess the other things that you'll see here is I put these guys in anytime I'm transitioning to an image to the main title, or you'll see it here. What these are going to allow me to do is that it allows me to fade in. So I'll go stepwise over here. You'll see it's going to start in. And then what happens is it's going to very slowly fade me out, fade in the verse, and fade in the animated video over top. And then it's going to stay there until I choose to fade it out at the very end. So that is what those look like, and we're going to talk about those in just a moment. All right, so the first thing what we're going to look at is how you can, basically I'm going to talk about how you can create your banner texts and 2 ways of putting your custom transitions over them. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start up here and I'm just going to grab my John verse. Now what this is here is, this is a title template. I started it with a title template, and what you can't really see very well because the title's down here at the bottom in white text. I'll just go ahead and change that to something else you might be able to read. So there you can see that the text is down here, and I have it measured down here so it fits perfectly on the banner. And then what I've done here is I've created a template, and so if I come up here and I hit Add Template Title, I just grab the template title, which is this one right here, push OK. And then what that's going to do is just drop a new one on there somewhere. And of course, I have so many things, I have to go find it. I think it's called template title. So there it is. So now what you can see is that it defaults to a 30-second start. And you can change that by going into your configuration and configure Kdenlive. And then coming down here, this is where you are. So title clips default at 30 seconds. I think the original program defaults at 5. I changed it to image and title clips to 30 seconds just because it makes it easy for me to start with 30 and then cut it down in size as I need to. Now there's a couple ways that you can, well first let's go ahead and change this. Let's just say, double click, or basically I spam that until everything all highlights. This is my title. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, and the first time you edit this, it'll ask if you want to save it to the title file. No, I'm going to save it in the project only. Otherwise it will edit that text, and I don't want to do that. So now, though, if I make a duplicate, which I have set hotkeys, you want to set hotkeys, also setting it down here. You want to figure out, excuse me, not there, it's down here. Configure shortcuts. Okay, so you want to figure out what are the options you're using the most, and you want to create hotkeys. For me, duplicating title clips is huge. And so I used to have to come back in, right click and hit duplicate. But what I did is I set a hotkey for that. So if you just come up here, find the command you want to do, and then you just click on this, and then you can just change your hotkey here. Now, occasionally you will find that hotkeys don't save. So anytime I change this, I actually come down and I come down here and I save this file into my defaults, and then it always takes. So now if I want to duplicate this, I just highlight it over here and I hit my Control D and it will make a duplicate. So now I can give it whatever new title I want and then do that. All right. So now let's actually work with the new one that I had just created. So it's not going to be constantly asking me if I want to make changes to the title clip. So here's the new title. So what I can do with the new title, first is if I don't want it to be 30 seconds, I have a few options. The first is I can drag it over here, and on the timeline, I can double click it. You can only do this if it does not have, already have a transition or an effect on it. If it does, you can't do that. So if it's just its raw clip, now I can come up here and I can change it. Maybe I'll change that to 20 seconds. Push OK, and you'll see it drops down to 20 seconds. The other thing you can do is in clip properties down here, check the duration box up here at the top, and then you can come over here and you can change it right here. Now, the difference is this one on the timeline will only change it on the timeline. If you make the change up here, then any new instances are the new size. So what I use that for is I actually have two equivalent banners. They're the exact same thing. It's just that one of them is 15 seconds and one of them is 30 seconds, which I changed in that manner. And then what I did is I added the transition to every instance of this banner. So when I drop the banner on, I never have to go in retroactively and add my custom transition. Okay? So this is my 15-second clip. Suppose that I want to add a transition to this, but it's not set on there. What you do is you can right-click we're going to add our effect, and I'll come down here. Now, under my custom, this is where I have my transition. So this is a verse. So verse in is 30 seconds. Verse in 15 is a 15-second. So now I'm going to do this, and it's going to create my, my title effects over here. So now let's have a look at examining what this title clip looks like. And I realize I'm doing things in a lot of different orders. It's just that there's so much to this. You know, you could do days and days of tutorials. I'm just walking through really quick. And if people really want in the comments me to slow down and focus on one area of this, I am absolutely glad to make more videos focusing on that. But what we're seeing here is first it's transitioning 2000 pixels to the X out of the screen. And then now it's right in place, and I've brought up the opacity as well. And then you have to have, this is the starting clip when it begins to fade, and this is the end where the opacity is down to 0 and it's 2000 out of the realm again. So this means that now it will slide in, hang out for the duration of the clip, and then it's going to slide out at the very end. Okay. Now, if you want every instance of this new clip to have this effect, what you do is you come up to New Title, you highlight it over here, and then you just grab the verse that you want, and you just drag it on over. That will give it the star, and then now any instance I have, it's already applied. So if I click on this, I don't see the transition is here, but if I actually go and scroll over top of this, you'll see that the transition does apply. So you don't see it in the effects up here, but it is applied to every instance of this on the timeline. So that is how you can add your transitions, and this saves an extra step. Now again, what I have done, if you want to actually take that off, you can come down and you can actually unclip it like this. That does it temporarily, or you can just delete it from there, and you'll see that the star goes away from the top. Now, again, I set hotkeys for these custom transitions as well, as long as you have a custom transition. So with this, Control, Shift, and V gives me that transition onto any clip for a 15. Control, Alt, V gives me the 30, and then I have Shift, Control, B, and Alt, Control, B to add the 30-second, 15 and 30-second banners. So that's how I'm doing the banners on here. Okay, so there's how to drop the verses. So how I'm doing my overlays, as you can guess, let's go ahead and drop my verse on there, back on there. So what I'm doing is I'm deciding on each section, do I want a 15-second or do I want a 30-second clip? So what makes the difference for me is how big the verse is. So these ones here, a single verse, I'm using just the 15 seconds, but oftentimes I'm very long-winded with my Bible verses. And so with this one here, where I spanned, you know, from 9:30 to 10:04, long time of talking, I like starting and ending with it. So I'll put my cursor over here and then go kind of slide over. And then what you'll see is the title comes in as I'm telling people what verse to go to. And then as I start to read, now I'm overlaying the verse. So what I did for these to get the verses working right is this thing is not a good editor. So what these look like is all these guys over here where I have the verse and TXTs. So one of these guys looks like this. Again, let me go ahead and change the font size so you can actually see the text in there. Okay, so there's what the text looks like. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going online and I'm grabbing whatever Bible verse it happens to be. And I do that because I'm definitely not going to be manually typing things in. So, of course, Bible Gateway is the best place. So if I grab James 1, let's do 2 through 4, okay? So if I come up 2 through 4. Okay, there we are. So now, grabbing James 2 through 4, what I'm doing is, if I come over and just paste this all in, it does that. And you don't want to be messing with that. And then I get all sorts of weirdness. I'm just like, and then you find out that you frequently have to just cancel. So what I'm doing now is I'm using my basic text editor. And so with my text editor loaded up, then I'm actually coming over here and I'm pasting this in. Now, of course, particularly using the NASB, they put in a lot of footnotes, and so I get these little guys over here, which are kind of annoying. So what I figured out is somewhere in between the search button up here and the search and replace button over here, that's my sweet spot. I don't want text going any longer than that, and I don't want text any longer than 6 lines. So I'm just coming over here and I'm just using my arrow keys, deleting the footnotes, deleting the verse references, and then somewhere in between the search and replace is when I'm placing my enter here. And then if we go over every six lines of text, okay, so now I have, I missed one over here. So I have 6 lines of text. So every 6 lines of text, I'm going to put in a space. I'm going to do it again. And then every 6 lines of text, what you'll have is I'm going to come over here and have one of these. And that's why I have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, etc. Okay? So that's basically where my cutoff line happens to be. And so what I'm doing is I'm coming over here. I'm making my duplicate, pushing F2 to rename it. I'm going into my James 1-text and then give it the number 1, and then I'm going to duplicate that every time I need that duplicated. So here's where the text is. So double click this to open up the editor, and now if you just double click on this, maybe double or triple click on this, hold Control Alt A, paste it in. But now what you'll see is it's not centered. So now I'm coming up and center this way, center this way. So there's 2 center buttons. One centers horizontally, one centers vertically. Now push OK, and now I can drop this guy on here somewhere where it will show up. Okay, so of course you'll see that that does not look good over top. Now, what you do notice is that there is a very faint drop shadow on that. And that is because a drop shadow allows you to be able to read things. So with text there, just hit the shadow and you can select how big it is. You know, what's the offset, what's the blur. I believe here you can set the transparency and the color. So I have it set, what's the scale at? I have it set, okay, yeah, so they're using the 255 scale. So I have it set at 100 with black is what I have it set at. All right, so of course now you can't really see it well over myself, and then what I'm going to do is just come over here and just drop a video on top of it so that it works. And then for making sure the videos work, I'm just dropping one of these on over each layer. That ended up being perfect. I guess it's because that's a 10-second video and this is a 30-second. So then the last one, I can just drag it to shorten it, and then I can just come ahead and click. Now what I am finding though is that the top one likes to transition over the whole thing. So to resolve that, I highlight the first open, copy it, paste it, and then drag it up and it should snap right into place. So now as I play this, you'll see that it'll fade up, runs over, and then what happens is as soon as I get to that line of the text, it's going to transition the text over. It's going to keep looping it. Now, I went with this particular animated background because it's a perfect loop. I have other ones that I like better, but they're not perfect loops. You'll see the little jolt as it resets itself. This one, you never see that jolt. It's a perfect loop. And so that's how I'm adding my text. I'm adding my transitions. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you can make a custom transition. So I'm just going to throw this guy up on the field. I'm going to make it, let's make it 15 seconds long. And then we're going to talk about how to make a custom transition. So if I want to have this maybe zoom up in place, so maybe that's something I think about doing in the future. What we can do to make that happen is first I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit Add Effect and I'm going to hit Crop and Transform and hit my Transform. Now this will allow you to add rotations, fades, zooms, and things like that. There is a zoom function on the title clip, but you have a hard time getting it to work consistently, and that would mess up with the fact switching different verses around could could pose some challenges, etc. And so what we're going to do is we'll show you how we can start with a very small and transition up into full size mode, and maybe fade it in as we do that. So what you want to do is as long as your marker there is anywhere over the title clip, what you see is up here we have these the arrow keys back here. What this will do is go back and forth to the latest keyframe, and this is where I have this theme has a problem where it's giving me that text in white. So it says insert keyframe is what that says. So I apologize for that, but I'll try and tell you what those titles are as I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the back, and this will go back to the very beginning of the title. And then the beginning and the end are automatic default. Well, actually, just the beginning is an automatic default keyframe. So what I want to do is I want to decide how long do I want this to take. 1 second is a long time. Okay, you want to do transitions in like tenths of seconds, maybe half of a second. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to zoom ahead just a little bit. This much is probably perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and click my plus button, and that gives me a keyframe to work with. Now I also want to be able to zoom the thing down or maybe zoom it back out. So you want to set another keyframe, which is where you want your end transition. And I'm going to go maybe somewhere over here. Now, if you were really doing this on a professional scale, you might even put this, there's ways to measure your distances here. You might even want to do that. But what we're going to do here is just for the sake of example, we're going to add another keyframe. We're going to go to the end, and we're going to add another keyframe. So now I have 4 keyframes set. My very end, my beginning of end transition, my opening, my end of end transition, and my opening transition. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to set this at 1%. Don't do 0, it won't work. It'll not save. So I'm going to save my opening transition to 1%, and I'm going to save my opacity at 0. Now what you see is this line, because it wants to always start with the frame of reference of 1, 1, meaning the first pixel to the left and the first pixel to the top. So I want to center this. So I'm going to come down here, push my center and my center. So now you see that you have your crosshairs and your red part right there on the very center. Okay, I have a size at 1. I can probably go down to 0.1 if you want something that's perilously close to 0. But I'll just do 1 is good enough, and then 0. So this means it's completely transparent and small in size. Now my second transition is now 100% opacity, 100% size. Now I want my 100% size and my 100% opacity. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the text forward as we fade it out. So I'm going to click onto my last one. I'm actually going to go up to a 1000 size and a 0 opacity. But once again, it's going to keep our top in the upper top corner, which is where it was at the start of the transition. But now the thing is 1000 times the size. And so what it's going to do is it's kind of huge. And so I need to center and center again. So hit my center, hit my center. And so now it should always be centered, but then it should shoot up. So we're going to go ahead and test this now just by running over top and see what this does. Let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and add some of this on the bottom of it just so we can see it better. Okay, so here we're about to fade in. Fades up. And then now we're going to be giving it a second, and so it's going to be coming up, so pretty soon it should start zooming up while it fades out. That's what it should be doing. So there you go. So that's how you do that type of transition. And then, of course, you can have multiple different keyframes in there. You can also do other transitions. So you could do, under Add Effect, you can do your... you can do a rotate and shear if you want to spin up. That's how you would do that. Cropping, you can do various colorations, including, stylizing them, things like that. Now, if you want to save this transition for using it later, then you can come up here and you can come up and hit your save effect. So I'm not going to save it, but just hit save effect, and then what will happen is it's going to show up under your custom. So when it's on custom, now you can drag this on any clip, or you can drag it down onto any individual transition. So that's how you can create your own customized transition. Okay, so next let's talk about templates. So inside, and some people that don't actually know about this, hopefully most people do, but now close without saving and close that. If you go into your home folder, you will have a folder here called templates, and if you want anything you drop in here is going to create a copy of that file under your new documents menu. So if I come over here, if I want to, for example, create a LibreOffice document here, I can kind of start out here, and maybe I want to do something with a different font than Liberation Serif. Let's do something with Open Sans. There we are, as a default to font 11. Just any other changes you might want to this. And if you hit your Save As, saving this into your templates, and then give it a name, Libre Writer Document. Okay, hit Save. Close that. This works on pretty much any Linux distro. Now I can right-click and come down here, and I can open this. And of course, I can change the font, the icon of this as well. And so I have this this template in here. The reason I have these templates in here is, and on my, for example, on my other Linux computer, which is more my my general multi-purpose, I have multiple different Kdenlive templates, because I use these templates to start with what my starting material is, so I don't have to go back and rebuild them. So if I just go ahead and create one of these templates, just open this guy up, and then what I actually have in here now is, this is kind of what my default starting point is, where I have my WAV file, I have my exit slide, I have my animated background, I have my 30-second banner with my overlay on top of it. I have my 15-second banner with my overlay on top of it. And I have one title template, which has my name in it there, so that I can use that. And then, of course, what you see is I already have the transition clip here. I have the audio file put where I want it. And this over here is my basically my introductory title. So I have that already set. So now all I need to do, and this is a great idea, especially if you're doing something like this is specifically built for this series. So when I start doing another series, for example, if I want to do a series based on a specific book or whatever else I want to do, I can then go in, create a new template, and then it gives me all my starting material without having to create a new file and adding a bunch of blank stuff to it. So now all I have to do is I just kind of start by adding the video I want to add. So maybe just grab the video that was in there. And then the next thing I actually, for this series, I always go ahead and make a custom thumbnail for each series. So now I can literally start by taking this guy, dragging this over. It's going to snap into place. Drag this guy over, that snaps into place, and now this guy's ready to go. Where I have my out music, my image. Now that there is actually something I got to get that resolved. There we go. I think I got it that time. I didn't get that lined up right. Yeah, I got to get that fixed there. I think the challenge is I used to put this on the video 1 and this on video 2. So what I might have to do is just resave it like that. And I made that switch so that I could better add the Bible verses being read over it. That was something I just did recently. So now it will fade up properly, and then consistent, the title pops in right here, and then it moves through. So that's how you can utilize your templates to create what you do. So here we've covered creating templates. We've covered how to add transitions to banner clips, how to create transitions, how to add transitions to clips manually. I guess the last thing is, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about rendering. So up here in your render, you can hit your render file, and then these up here will just give you a variety of different rendering options. I usually just start with this one, but to be honest, I come into more options and I drop the video quality down all the way and I bump my audio up to 5. That's just consistently what I do. This, I find, gives me the way smallest file while maintaining every bit of quality. I don't lose any quality doing this, but the file size drops. Otherwise, what I was finding early on as I was recording these is I'd have a 2 gigabyte file, and when I transcode it, it'd still be 2 gigabytes. Well, these size videos, I can very easily get away with them being only 600 megabytes with them still having the full HD quality. And so I found that if I just jump this down all the way, which puts video at 45, audio at 5, it actually gives me a much smaller transcoded file than it has in the past. Of course, you can bump up your scaling, your thread scaling, how many threads you have. I think you can go a maximum of 4, and then you can go up with your speed, and of course that will adjust your quality as well. So just go ahead and hit your render, and then it'll take anywhere from half the time to twice the time of the video runs to run the render, depending on how you're doing. I think this one I did today ended up taking about an hour and 15 minutes to do the render completely. So that is just how you can use a lot of the different tools as Kdenlive. I realize this is a very fast whirlwind tutorial, and if we need to focus on any individual specific things there like if you want to see much more detail in any specific areas, let me know in the comments. I'm not opposed to doing more Kdenlive tutorials. I guess another thing I want to say about Kdenlive is watch your version in your repositories, because what I found is that some Ubuntu versions and definitely Linux Mint, which is my preferred distro, does not have the latest Kdenlive. Older versions of Kdenlive are very buggy. And what I've found is that if you install the repositories, just go to Kdenlive's website, install the repositories or the PPAs for their latest stable. That's the version of Kdenlive you want to be running. Don't try and run the Kdenlive that's in the Linux Mint repository. As of the last time I installed Linux Mint, which was only about a month or 2 ago, it still is running an old version, and that old version is very buggy. So make sure that you're not running that buggy old version. And I'm trying to see which version I want. Okay, so the version that I'm using here and the one you should be looking for is 17.04.3. Make sure you're running around that version, not an older one. Well, thanks for watching. If there are other Kdenlive tips you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below. And if you would like to help support what we are doing at Switch to Linux, check out our website, switchtolinux.com/support. You can see all of the current ways you can help support what we are doing. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.